Hello, everybody. Here we are with the Peace to You crew, and again, we got our senior pastor here at Peace Lutheran Church, Pastor Guy Roberts. And Peace Lutheran Church, we talking about it on last Sunday. We were talking about just how preaching Christ, preaching Jesus, and this man's a master preaching Jesus, obviously in your heart, and talking about Jesus. We're seeing more and more people coming into the church, and people want that. They're just reaching out for that. They want that in their lives, and especially today, when the world is kind of just really upset. I don't know if there's a better word for it, but it's just people don't know what to think or do anymore, and they're getting mixed messages from the media and things like that. Well, one message that's not really mixed at all is the love that Jesus has for us, and the importance of having Jesus in your life. And when things don't make sense, turn to the truth, and you've talked about that. The way, the truth, the life. And, we were talking about Romans, and you were talking about in your sermon, bro, Romans 36, too.
Yep.
11:36. It's all him, through him.
Yep. It is to him. What does it say? It's all from him, through him, and to him. And that's the glory that we get to celebrate in belonging to him. And so kept it really simple. We've been doing more in-depth study of the book of Romans, but this one I just kept pretty simple. We were celebrating the work he did through our mission teams.
Yes.
And so the case I made is, if you want to try to break out of keeping God at arm's length kind of Christianity, go do something like a mission trip. There'll be opportunities both here and locally and abroad, but take yourself out of your comfort zone, trust in God, and go do something, and you'll be a different person when you come back. And that was kind of the thrust of the sermon. But the first part of it, as you watch it, really was an observation of someone growing up in our church body. Baptized older than most, 12 at 12, new to the church and trying to figure it out, going to one of our Concordia Christian colleges and not really knowing anything, and experiencing lifelong Lutherans who had gone to Lutheran schools and knew the Bible and the catechisms and all these things by heart. What I observed was that we had either, I would say probably unintentionally, set up a keep God at arm's length Christianity.
True.
So where the sermons were good and they were faithful and they preached truth, but they didn't get too personal. And so people would be comfortable with that. Where the pastors were revered, which you can say, well, that's good or bad or not, but it allowed people to keep them, these holy people, a little bit separate from them. You would physically see it in churches where the first 5-6 pews, there's no one in them, especially in front of the pulpit where no eye contact could be made. And joked around about how I used to come out of the pulpit and come closer to the people and they get super uncomfortable, and over the years I just learned that both my preaching and teaching style and approach, my personal view on things and the way and manner in which I went about ministry was a challenge to that way of doing church.
And I personally, I love that. You've talked about making our room a little bit larger, having different tables to bring more people in, and just talking to people. When you in church, Pastor Guy will sometimes say, point at the person next to you and say, well, first of all, I'm just happy you're here.
Yeah.
Or point at the person next to you and say, you're a sinner. We're all pointing at each other. But it's that approach where it's more of like a hands-on approach, and
it's hokey, but the whole sanctuary is set up to stare forward and never look at anyone else, unless they're obnoxious or distracting right in front of you. And so it's hokey, but it does work to get people looking to their right, to their left, to realize that this is one of the gifts God has given you, is each other. And so I frequently will do that and continue to do that probably for the rest of my ministry, just because I haven't found a better way to get people to go a little bit deeper, like to say funny things like, you're a hot mess, or and you are too.
Exactly.
That's just a tiny step, but it is a step. And then in Bible study, if I learned probably 15 years ago, because I've always had pretty good Bible study numbers comparatively, and people always ask me why, and I don't know, and don't argue with it, but one day I realized that what I do that other pastors don't do is that I stop talking for chunks of it.
Yes.
I'm not as good. I haven't been as good, and the people haven't been quite as good yet. We're still working, a work in progress. But ideally, if I'm teaching for an hour, I should be not talking for a half an hour at least.
Yeah. Let the people
And letting the people talk about faith issues and life issues, let older people share wisdom with younger people. And a long time ago, I realized they're not coming because I'm such an amazing teacher. They're coming because they crave that, need that, want that. They need people to walk this life of faith together with. And so that's why we talk about the tables, switching the tables, making them a little bit bigger so they can fit more than one family, making the room bigger because it's full, and when new people come in, there's nowhere to sit, all that kind of stuff. That's why we're doing that, is so that it can become, so that we can help people make Jesus and life and faith more personal, closer to where they daily live.
Yeah. And you posed that question, what brings you back to church? Why do you come here? I used to do it with my Sunday school too. I'd ask the kids, why are you here? Why are you here? It's Sunday morning. Why aren't you, laying in bed? Why aren't you sleeping? Why are you here? What brings you here? And it was amazing. I want to be with my friends. I think the Spirit brings me here because I don't feel right if I don't come here on a Sunday. And then, I've talked to a lot of folks that are reluctant to come to church. But I said, the one thing for me, especially when we do our Bible studies, is that I realize I'm not alone here. I'm among all these sinners who I am a sinner with them, and we're all together. And nobody is an expert, on life.
Yeah.
But it's so good just to talk.
Yeah.
And be a part of that.
Yeah, I visited with someone yesterday, and they said that numerous times, that they were all alone, that there was nobody, there's only just one person in their life that cared. To which, you're like, oh. But what I said was, that's not true. And they just looked at me, because I'm sure they're used to people going, no, it's okay, and trying to comfort them and whatever. But I just said, well, I get that feeling is real.
Sure.
I get the feeling, but that's not reality. That's not your truth. And we just started listing off all the people that actually do care, and very quickly got up to 15 people.
Wow.
And it's like, and then you're missing, you're never alone. You're a Christian. You belong to Jesus. So yes, I get the feeling. That's a real thing. You got to struggle with that, and I'll pray for you. But in general, one of the ways you can deal with this is just to say to yourself, I know this isn't true. I feel this way, even though I know it's not true.
And and you said, when you had that question, some of the people answered that, well, I come here for grace. And other people will say, well, I come here for the sanctuary, because in this crazy messed up world, I come here and just, Jesus is here with all these people. He's listening to us. He's with us. He's there to comfort us.
Yeah.
And it, like you've said, and we've said many times, this is a family. And we want people to be part of this family. We want you to come here and feel like you're part of this family, and know that you don't need to know everything there is to know, because I sure don't.
Yeah.
But it just feels good to be here.
It does. Yeah. I will say that not every church has that same same mojo going on. This church certainly does. This is a fun church to be a part of, and I thank God for that every day, because I've not actually ever belonged to a church that was not, but I know them, and and I've been to them, and I've experienced them, and I've walked with other pastors who shepherd them, and so I mean, at the end of the day, we gather around Him, like His Word, His sacrament, His gifts. But man, His will, His desire for us is to have what we have here. Absolutely. Which is a family of faith. That's what the church is designed to do. And really what it comes down to is when you depersonalize Jesus so much that He becomes then something that you apply to life, or emergency beacon that you call out when you're in need, or something that you faithfully do, but the rest of your life doesn't have any connection to him, but you're regular in worship and Bible study and all the things, and you check all the boxes. When you intentionally or unintentionally set up that kind of church, you become something less than what he designed for us. And I think we do it because it's just a lot easier to keep God at arm's length, because then we don't have the struggles, we don't have the failures, we don't have the all the things that come as a result of not belonging to yourself. You know, we have the freedom to do what we want and not have a burden of conscience about it and all these things. And so I get it, and I've done it. Like I personally do it, you know, but it's wrong. And so, so when you, like, I don't know if this is a commercial for our congregation, but like when you come to this church, what you'll find is a church that's not really interested in that kind of church. Like they're not interested in being a collection of individuals who come together for the same purpose. What they are a family of faith who belong to one another just as we belong to Jesus. And that's a different thing. I mean, that's a very, very different thing.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And, you know, I was thinking when we were talking about it in Bible study, I remember I grew up in a church that was very, very conservative.
Yeah.
And, you know, you walked in and you had to sit and you sit still. And my parents, I can remember that if I was kind of messing with my sisters or something, I'd feel a whack on the back of my head. But, you know, you had to just very, very, I don't know, almost regimented the way you sat and listened, and then you left. And this is, I feel so free here to say what I want to say and know that I'm not, you know, I can talk to you about anything.
Yeah.
I can talk to Pastor Tim about anything. And the thing is, it's just free, and then talk to each other, which is so important. Say, wow, you've had that same feeling, or you've been there before.
Yeah.
You know, it feels good.
Yeah, it does. It feels good, and it's like it's just more in line with how Jesus did ministry. I mean,
Yes.
he literally walked from place to place with his 12 disciples and entered people's homes, and he just went to them. I mean, that's the very nature of Jesus, not sit up on a hill and wait for people to come to you, kiss the ring, you know, revere you. And, you know, I'll say even this, the temptation for every pastor is to try to make life as clean and neat as possible. And so what you do is you lean into that reverent thing, because people will talk to you less. They'll come to you with their problems less. Yeah. And it just is easier and neat and clean, and you can kind of live under the illusion that everyone's not all screwed up. But that is not it took me about 1.5 years of being a pastor to realize that is not my job as a pastor. I mean, I was sitting at a desk, some people came in for some counseling, like the first people that availed themselves to this young pastor, just like, oh, Lord have mercy on you. And they sit down and they just start to open up. And this is family I really respected and thought had it all together. And I remember after they left thinking, why did they tell me all of that? Right? And then it dawned, then it was like a realization, a little late in the game, to be honest, to do anything about, because I was already a pastor. Yeah. But I was like, this is your job. Like, this is your job. Like, you do a bunch of other stuff too, because you have to, but this is the work that Christ sent you to do. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm built to wait around in this crap all day, every day. And so that's a constant struggle to get up for the game and to wait in there. So I get it, but that's it. I mean, that is the job. And it's not just my job. It's our job as all Christians to do the same thing.
And so many people need somebody to talk to, somebody to go to. And you had mentioned too, when it comes to a pastor, you've got, hundreds of people here. You can't be that focal point where all hundreds of us come walking into your office. We're taught, and we all have common belief, and we can help each other just by sitting in those small groups, even when it's in our Bible study around those tables. Yeah, it's amazing what that can do.
Yeah, and it's a pastor can try, but they'll do it poorly. I mean, you can only do so much. I mean, there's only so much you can give. So if you really want it to be done well as a church, it has to be done with people living life together and caring for one another. The pastor gets the big stuff
Yes,
that
exactly.
no one knows what to do with, you know. And that's way more healthy. And to be honest, we've talked about how awesome this church is in some ways, but one of the things I learned about this church in the first year is that even though this is an incredibly friendly church, what we're talking about, personal relationship with one another, was not communicated. When I asked people why they liked this church and what their connection was, it was almost universally a connection with one of the pastors.
Yeah.
And to me, people would just say that freely with no big deal. To me, that was not healthy. Like, that's not a healthy and sustainable and good way to go about ministry. Because as much as I'd like to have an awesome connection with 1,000 people that belong here, I've just learned, I mean, my first church was 3,500 people and it was impossible. And so you just learned you had to replicate and set up ministry to accomplish the same things. You can't personally do it all. And what I learned is it's even healthier when you do it that way in general, because now rather than just one person that you feel like you're bothering when you come and talk to because they're so busy, you have a group, a family within the family that cares for you, and so that's I've been trying to replicate that and build that kind of ministry everywhere I've served. And you know, I'm not sure I've shared this with you, Kent, or on this podcast before, but when I left my last congregation, you know, I left healthy, you know, and everyone's sad, you know, so that's good, and better than good riddance.
Yeah, goodbye.
Yeah, and we had a party and say goodbye, and the people said lots of really kind, nice things. But there's one gal that stood up, and this was the greatest compliment she could have paid me. I don't think she knew that, but she said, I've never experienced a church like this before. You gave me a family.
Wow, that's great.
And which, you know, the Lord gave you family, but I didn't correct her.
Yeah,
And
no,
and it was, but that was, I mean, that's the greatest, that was the goal, that was the work, that was what I was trying to accomplish. And so after 9 years to have someone be able to articulate that with no connection to any of the work, just her own personal experience that was it. And so now here at Peace, as this is an awesome church, super mission-minded, incredibly friendly, very generous, have done awesome things in their history and past. And what I believe what the Lord has called me to bring is to just deepen those personal relationships with the Lord and one another. That's what I can add to the concoction as far as leadership goes. And so you'll see that. If you come here, you'll see us taking intentional steps for this. We introduced a ministry that will be starting this fall called We Care, in which we're really just going to be facilitating places and opportunities and projects and trips and all kinds of things for our people to do that will allow them to not think about themselves and just think about others, and to go out and do something that serves other people with no strings attached, no bait and switches, just for the sake of being who he called us to be. And the goal is twofold: one, to serve and help the community wherever we can, but the just as big a goal is to help our people start to experience what it means to live like Christ has called us to live. So,
You know, and that being said, we have a picnic coming up on the 13th of September, which is exciting.
Lutheran Luau.
Lutheran Luau, that's right. It's going to be interesting, especially the grass skirt part of it. I'm
yeah,
not sure.
we're going to do fire eating because
Yes.
the insurance said that we could do it. Most likely won't get sued.
No,
So-
yeah, I think I'll pass on that. I got facial hair, I'm going to keep on. But I think it's going to be a great time. There's going to be a car show, and for the kids, there's going to be the bouncy castle, you know, and the slide, the water slide, and for adults too, I suppose. I've seen a lot of adults slide down the slide.
Yeah, I did it once. It's not weight rated for me, for sure. So it was bouncy.
Look at that bounce.
It was kind of scary, actually.
But we hope you come and join us. And if you don't have a church home, come and join us here at Peace Lutheran Church, 57th and Field. I think that you'll find a home here. I know you will. And please introduce yourself to Pastor Guy. Pastor Tim, you see me around, just introduce yourself. I would love to have you here. We'd love to just talk to you. And especially if you can be around here on September the 13th, I think you'll really love it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
But, well, Pastor Guy, thank you
Thanks, Ken.
for time and blessings on your week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining us for Peace to You at Peace Lutheran Church in Arvada, Colorado. If you have no church home, we'd be delighted for you to join us at 5675 Field Street in Arvada. Services are at 8 and 10:30 a.m., with Bible classes for all ages at 9:15 a.m. You can easily access our services online on our YouTube channel, Peace Arvada at youtube.com. or wherever podcasts are found. Coming this January, tune in to the new video podcast at Peace to You on youtube.com or listen wherever podcasts are found. Now, from the entire broadcast team at Peace Lutheran in Arvada, I'm Reuben Hollenbeck, and may the peace of our Lord be with you now and always.